Wait, I want to take a bite. Wait, no, I shouldn't wait. I'm gonna wait until we're recording. We're like in it.
Take a bite.
So
Fuck it.
excited.
Why
No,
not?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
This will be how we start the episode. It's like I'm not even waiting for the conversation to begin. I'm just gonna take a bite and go
I'm
for it.
dead. I'm like, this looks too good. Wait, let me get a napkin. Don't get my pajamas.
Hey there, and welcome to Takeout and Talk, a new series from Cocina and Mecenas Media where culture's always on the menu, even if it arrives in a paper box. I'm Xorje Olivares, and today I'm joined by pop and Latin music journalist Tomás Mier. Tomás has written for a number of publications like Variety, Vogue Latin America, and Rolling Stone. He was at Rolling Stone for about a handful of years before deciding earlier this year to leave and embark on an independent journalist creator path, which we talk a lot about in this conversation. This desire to kind of choose the artists he wants to interview, have the conversations he feels most excited by, and realizing that that's sort of where the industry is headed. But he's somebody who has had a lot of mentorship in his past, which we get into, and somebody who has, at the root of it, just been staying strong to his passions with regards to music. We talk about the music he listened to growing up in the Bay Area, the music that he really enjoys now, and the artists that he thinks we should be listening to. So a lot to unpack and a lot to get into during my conversation with Tomás Mier here on Takeout and Talk. Well, I am hoping that my guest is wearing the exact same thing he wore when he talked to Lady Gaga, because if he did, I will feel that much closer to my. Uh,
Wait,
Look how
how
that
do you see
works.
that or no?
I had not even noticed that. So,
This is
for those of you who are not watching, Tomas is wearing a Mayhem. Is it a jersey or is it a shirt?
it's like a Mexico jersey with a mayhem print on it.
I will tell you because my dumbass is looking at the mirrored version of Tomas's video. I had not noticed that it said mayhem. So all of this wonderful, mind-blowing activity that's taking place because this man right here has not only interviewed Lady Gaga and pretty much every other pop diva that you can imagine right now, but I love that he's doing it in his own way, not only having sort of traditional media backing him as he's doing it, but now as he's embarking on this really incredible independent digital creator journey. And so, like every good digital creator, I wanted to get Tomas in the comfort of his home, and not only the comfort of his home, but also to eat with him in the comfort of his home. So, Tomas, thanks for joining me for this really wonderful exchange. Hopefully, the first of many to come between us.
Yeah.
And two, tell me what you brought to the table. What are we eating today?
Oh my gosh, I was very excited to think about like what I was gonna eat, and it's giving noon 30, 12:30 here in LA. So I wanted to go for a sandwich vibe, and I had heard really good things about this Italian sandwich shop called All'Antico Vinaio. I think it's based in New York, but they like started a few stores here in LA, and like the name is L'Inferno, and it literally looks like fire. Like there's like arugula, like that's my favorite. That's my favorite green. There's like
Okay.
eggplant in this, un poquito de todo, and it's giving spicy, and I'm very excited about that. And then I ordered a peach iced tea to, palate
To
cleanse.
offset
Like,
it. You want something
yes,
refreshing with something
something
that's
sweet for the kids.
literally fuego in your mouth. I will say that I am probably a very bad Mexican because I don't necessarily go towards spice, but I think if I saw that on a menu, I would probably order it. On
No,
a,
it
on a
looks
spice
good.
level of one to five, five being like, holy shit, I need to do milk in my mouth like a Hot Ones episode. Where would you say your level of comfort is with spice?
Um, I feel like I would slay on hot ones. It would be like the day after where it's like using the restroom part. That's where I would struggle. Like on the show, should I taste to see how spicy it is?
Yeah, Tomas is taking a bite. We're about to gauge. He may have to
Mm,
leave immediately afterwards.
that's really good. The eggplant is like there. It's not that spicy, but it has like a kick to it at the end, and the nuttiness of the arugula really balances out. I'm here for it.
Okay,
The
so we
Inferno
already
kind of
have.
ate.
So we're excited with the choices
Hmm.
made on Tomas's part. I'll say that on my end, I went on a little bit of a healthier journey. Granted, this is not typically how I do these things. I got what's called a brussy salad. It is
Cute.
pretty much chicken, sweet potato, and avocado, Parmesan cheese. It is a seasonal salad offering from Mixed Salads here in San Francisco. And this is my way of offsetting. I just came back from my hometown in South Texas. So I had a lot of pan dulce. I had a lot of, the carne asadas were plenty when I was home.
Right.
So this is my way of telling my body, I see
It
you.
cancels out.
I hear you. Yeah. Like, let's have some more greens because there was definitely no fiber intake when I was back home. Which if am I mistaken in knowing this that for back home for you, is it the Bay Area? Do you have some ties to the Bay Area? Not necessarily San
Yeah.
Francisco, but
I grew
nearby,
up
right?
I grew up in Santa Clara, so maybe 40 minutes south of San Francisco. I grew up taking the Caltrain up to SF whenever we were trying to get away from home. So yeah, I grew up in the Bay and I go back very often, like every few weeks for sure.
What would you say is different about the Mexicanos in LA and the Mexicanos in the Bay Area?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think like in LA, it's like a little more in your face. Like it's just like that's just the existence of it. And I think maybe growing up in San Jose or Santa Clara, it's like more pocketed in some ways. I think that there's like a lot more diversity in a lot of the parts of like for example in Santa Clara, I think as gentrification has changed like the makeup of the city, it's become a lot more like Asian and Indian heavy. And then a lot of like the Mexicans that have lived there before still kind of keep some of the space, but it has changed a lot. So it's very different in that way, I think.
Okay. What was the music? Because I grew up in South Texas at a particular time in the world where Tejano music was supreme. Like I remember Tejano music when Selena was still alive. Like that's the era that I was growing up in that kind of music, and that's why I feel like it's still to this day my favorite genre of music. But like, what kind of music do you just one listen to growing up in the Bay Area or in California during the early 2000s? Like, what was I
Yeah.
missing out on because I wasn't in California?
You know, it's interesting because my parents had this really deep CD collection. They told me that they had some sort of like it seemed kind of like the old school Netflix subscription where they would just get sent CDs and they would pay like a monthly fee. And there was a lot of like Los Bukis, Renacimiento 74, this like random band, a lot of like Los Muecas, Los Freddys, a lot of those like romantica era sort of music, a lot of Marco Antonio Solis. There's this like one album that I remember my mom playing constantly. Enrique Iglesias, like that first Spanish album that he had, was very much part of the household. And then on my dad's side, like a lot of like Los Cadetes de Linares, like very, very Mexican, deeply música mexicana music. And that was just like my, yeah, I don't think I even like had started to even touch American music until maybe middle school.
Would you say so? I wholeheartedly admit, and this is where I seek you and a lot of other music journalists at this particular moment in my life because I don't listen to a lot of new stuff. I tend to go back to the things that I grew up with, the things that gave me comfort, the things that essentially built the foundation of who I am today. Like I'll listen to a lot of that now when I go on walks. But I think there's something beautiful about folks like you who seek out new music, seek out new themes, seek out new stuff, so that way we can understand that there's an evolution of music happening. What would you say is some of the things that motivate you to just seek out stuff that you didn't grow up with, that you
Right.
didn't necessarily that didn't feel kind of second nature to who you were growing up?
I mean, I just love music. Like from an early age, I was obsessed with it. I remember middle school, like Lady Gaga was that for me. Like I avoided listening to Lady Gaga because I thought I would become gay, and I was like, girl, she was there all along. And now it's like I think I'm able to really tap into the sounds that really taught me who I am, but also what I'm seeing people are resonating with now. And it's fun. Like music is so fun. I love going to a show and not knowing who's performing and not knowing their music and being able to discover that with them as they're performing. So that's like one of the big motivators for me is like being able to say, oh, I saw Chapel Roan in this 500-person venue before anybody knew who she was, and now I get to interview her for her album release, and she'll say hi to me at the Olivia Rodrigo premiere. Like those are aspects that like just remind you like, oh, your music actually, I mean, your music, your writing and your I guess taste making or whatever has impact on the artist, but also on your reader and on your viewer. And that's the part that I really enjoy the most.
Talk about that distinction of being able to consume music and appreciate it as a fan, and then being able to re-communicate how you feel about that to an audience of people who might not look like you, might not come from the area of the country where you come from, might not be the same age as you. How does one start that process to be able to
Right.
communicate with the masses?
Well, so when I was in middle school and high school, I had a fan account for Fifth Harmony. So
Of
that's
course
where
you
the fan
did.
came up. Like my at was Ali's hot sauce. Maybe this is the connection to the sandwich that I chose because it's spicy. But my whole thing was that I would um go to fan meet and greets with Fifth Harmony and make tapatio bottles with their faces on it and se los entregaba as like a gift or as an offering. And that's where that fandom side comes in. But when I started becoming a journalist, it was like understanding like, okay, how can I bring in this music that I'm enjoying and really like create or write something that encapsulates what this is and can deliver this message. So when I started at Rolling Stone, it was the rise of música mexicana. So finding a way to like, how would I explain música mexicana to an old white man? That was how my thinking was a little bit, right? Like, this is a big thing that's happening in music. It's affecting culture overall. How can I explain this for somebody who might not understand? But also knowing that a lot of my readership will be young Latinos like me that are connecting with the sound. So it's always finding that middle ground. That's how I thought writing was for me a lot of the times when I was at Rolling Stone, for sure.
So I'll note. So we've obviously jumped quite a bit from the young boy in Santa Clara being surrounded by music to essentially bouncing around some really fantastic places in media, from People Magazine to Rolling Stone, where you were at for a few years, about a handful of years, and getting the chance to spotlight música mexicana and to talk about artists like Peso Pluma, Grupo Frontera, and like the kind of stuff that is blowing up. But if you're not in the know, somehow it's tough to really recognize who those artists are.
Right.
Tell me about those conversations, not necessarily with those artists, with these Latin artists, since you did focus on Latin artists, but with the people in charge of allowing you to tell those stories who might not be of a Latin background.
Right. I was really blessed to have an editor, Julissa Lopez, who she's Nicaraguense and has been covering Latin music forever. So it became a little bit of a tag team. And I remember specifically the story that comes to mind is the year Ella Baila Sola completely took over everything. You know, it's when Música Mexicana really broke through from being like a niche genre to then becoming like a mainstream thing that was just growing and growing. And there was a conversation at the end of the year. Rolling Stone puts out their list of like the 100 best songs of the year and the 100 best albums of the year. And I remember fighting so hard for Ella Baila Sola to be crowned the number one song of the year. I explained all of the reasons why. Julissa did too. And at the end, like that's what ended up, Rolling Stone ended up crowning the song of 2023. And I think that there were, one, you really need to have an editorial board and editorial editors really that understand what you're showing, you know, that are all even open to it. And I think that Rolling Stone was always really, really open to that. And I think that the tide really turned, and it helped, I think, to for me to be at a place like that, you know, like knowing that we have an expert that can talk about these subjects and like really explain it. That following year, we chose Peso Pluma as our cover for the Future of Music issue. So just like continue to really like spotlight that growth. And so I think that's what really made a difference. Like you have to have editors that are even open to it. If there's an open mind, you can convince. You can talk about Gen Z is talking about it. Young Latinos, here are the streaming numbers, you know? The stats back you up,
Hmm.
you know?
How do you, when you're not necessarily putting on your journalist hat, how do you consume music? What are your habits like?
For sure. You know, I use Spotify quite a bit. I think that they do a good job of curating music to your taste, based on like your listening habits. But something that I really like to do, I'm a big listening through an album type person. So, for example, was an artist that I've recently really gotten into and have for a while, but they just dropped their debut album, Hot and Freddie. I did an interview with them
Mm.
recently, and I've been really diving into their album, Big Disgrace. I'll let that album play out, and then at the end, Spotify will start recommending me other songs by different artists that I might not know. And then if something really catches my attention, I'll go and look into that and then dive into that discography and be like, is it something that I like? Is it something that I enjoy? So doing that. And then I also am surrounded by other music curators and like people that really enjoy music. So it's really like tapping into what they're listening to as well. What are the people whose taste that I really like? What are they listening to? What are they tapping into? That's kind of where my brain goes.
Are you drawn more to a beat or to a lyric?
Beat 100%. I think that production is key. You could have the best lyric in the world, but if it's not made into the right way, I don't know if it lands the same way. A good lyric takes you really far, though. I will say, and some of my favorite songwriters like have done incredible jobs at like making music that really resonates through what's being written. But I think it's definitely a mix. I just first always is beat, and then I'll go into lyric.
I'm curious about if you feel like there's something special and different about interviewing musicians more than anybody else. Like
Hmm.
what do you think musicians bring to the table, artists bring to the table that might be different from like an actor, an author, someone who pursues a different kind of field?
Well, when you think of acting, you're talking to people who are portraying somebody else or a character. And a lot of times, musicians and artists are going into their deepest feelings and making music based off of those deep feelings that they're having. So it's very personal. A lot of the times, the music is so personal. And I think that that's where that boundary changes. It's like, not you talking about portraying this character and like embodying it. It's like, this is me. How am I delivering my music? How am I delivering this story through my music? And so I think that changes. Also, artists are crazy. Like you, in order to be a musician, you have to be a little bit delusional and a little bit crazy. And you can see that in artists when you're talking to them. And the best artists are the craziest ones. That's how I think about it.
After a few years of working at Rolling Stone and working at these big tentpole publications, you've decided to pursue this role as an independent journalist. You are going to a lot of these places, interviewing a lot of these artists as yourself, not with necessarily someone that's tied behind you. What is one of the things that let's do like a little rose and thorn situation of what you've learned so far from kind of embarking on this as a solo artist?
I left Fifth Harmony to pursue my solo career. I'm Camila Cabello, but for Rolling Stone. You know,
Yeah.
I would say the roses have been realizing that people value my personal perspective. I think that that's been a really big lesson and has really boosted my confidence and made me understand like, oh, they like me, they like my take, they like my interview. I think that the thorn has been getting used to if I get introduced to an artist, it's like, here's Tomás Mier, and there's no, oh, Tomás Mier from Rolling Stone. Because when that would happen, or from people, whatever that might be, you could see like the switch go off because it's such a recognizable brand. And now it's like, oh no, like I'm the brand now. So now I'm the one that needs to be building up who I am. So maybe in that way, that's the thorn because it's a learning lesson and it's a growth aspect, but also it's fun, to be able to do that. I think those have been some of the biggest struggles. Also, I think just like time management, because it's not like, oh, entras a las nueve, sales a las seis. Like I wake
Hmm.
up whenever I need to. I just need to get my work done throughout the day, whether that's finishing early one day or finishing at midnight the next. Like it really depends. So finding that middle ground and also understanding what I even enjoy. At Rolling Stone, I wrote 960 stories in 2025, which is insane,
What?
right? I know. So I was on the news desk. So I was writing maybe 3 to 5 stories a day, 3 to 6, even depending on like the day. And I think I feel fatigued when it comes to writing. So I'm being very particular with what sort of writing opportunities I take on. If it makes sense for me for that moment, I'll take it on. But if it's giving like maybe I can pass on this, I'm being very selective because I do think that I want to love writing again. And right now, I don't love writing. And I think that I want to find that love again. What I am always going to love and what I enjoy the most is the interview, the art of the interview with an artist, getting them to open up. And that won't change. It's just the other side. Like, how do I put the puzzle pieces of some writing together?
Hmm. I mean, I will note that you are still writing. You're in as much as you are doing interviewing with artists. You've written for Variety, Billboard, Rolling Stone, Vogue, Latin America. So, like that stuff is still a very much part of what you're seeking out to do as a professional journalist. I'm curious for you about this idea of as we're seeing the evolution of media, we're also seeing the evolution of music to something that I think even the industry doesn't quite know what to deal with, which is the album versus the single versus the TikTok trending audio. And like, what are you making music for? Is it for a social platform? Is it for the love of doing it? Like, as somebody who's deep in it, you do you see that transition? Like,
Right.
does that transition maybe upset you as like a music lover, that sometimes people aren't doing it for the love of it, but more so for the commercialization of it?
You know, it's interesting. I think we had that really big learning curve between 2020 and last year. I think that starting this year and a little bit of the end of last year, we've transitioned out of that. So I think there was a moment in music between 2020 when like the song started blowing up on TikTok because that's all we were hearing, where labels were literally signing artists to one song deals. And it was giving, if this song blows up, then we'll do another one instead of really developing artists. And now I think I'm noticing a shift on labels and executives really investing in development. Artist development is an aspect that has been part of music for so long, but we kind of forgot about a little bit when we started to tap into the virality because the commercialization was like a quick turnover. Like, oh, this song is viral, we're making money now. But those artists, a lot of the times, ended up just weaning off and not growing into anything special. So, therefore, that catalog isn't worth very much besides that one song. So, I think labels are really tapping into that and clocking that. And I've noticed that at least in the last maybe 6 months and year or almost a year, that development, artist development is becoming like the centerpiece of artists and of the approach. It's no longer as much about like one-time virality or making music for a TikTok trend because we're also seeing that TikTok trends and high streaming numbers even does not equal high touring. Touring and streaming numbers is completely different. So being able to build an artist that sells tickets is completely different than being able to sell an artist that goes viral.
Hmm. Would you say, as a journalist, you received the appropriate artist development? That, like, there was a person, a place that really felt and saw your talent and kind of helped you on your way to be the reporter we see
Oh
today?
my God, 1000%. Like, I would be remiss to not say my editors at People Magazine, Melody and Sarah, they like believed in me super early on and they just threw me in it. And they were really there to like help me along the way of like, okay, here's what you need to get for a People Magazine interview. How are we going to get it? What are you going to do? Here's what you need to learn. I remember within the first 6 months of being an intern, I interviewed Jennifer Lopez. Like, what? They just trusted me to go to a press junket for World of Dance, that competition show she was a judge on, and making sure I got the right sound bites. They're like, here the stuff we like hope that she talks about. Try your best. And in that process, I like really perfected how do I get the juicy thing that they want from me? Because People Magazine, it's about lifestyle. Like at the time, I think she was still with A Rod, and wow, that feels like so long. It is
That
long ago.
seems like such a long
Yeah,
ass
it's
time
giving
ago.
2018, 2019. So it was like, okay, how do I ask about her ring and be cheeky? And I remember I was like, JLo, I love your music. And one thing that has been coming to mind, I don't even know how I said it, but I was like, your song El Anillo, what about you, El Anillo Pa' Cuando, about being engaged? And she like laughed it off and gave some like half answer, but that still hit like what I needed to ask. So I really feel like I found my middle ground of like interviewing, and at Rolling Stone, it's been music focused. So like, how do I get to the nitty gritty about the lyrics and what's in this music?
Do you ever have to have like a talk with yourself before you sit down with these music artists, like to just like ground yourself and remind yourself that this is supposed to be fun? Like
Right,
as much as there's a lot of weight that goes into these conversations because of what the final product needs to be, like it's still pretty cool, like being able
right.
to sit across folks that you admire.
For me, I think the biggest thing is I never want to be jaded. I think that that's something that has always been a really big thing top of mind for me. Like, I always want to remember that this is fun. Like, I'm interviewing a musician and this is fun and I love this. So, yes, I think if anything, it's talking to myself and bringing down the nerves, because if it's an on video interview, you can tell. In a written interview, you can kind of mask it, but
Mhm.
in a video interview, there's an aspect of like you have to present a certain way, but there's also some element of that performance that I enjoy. So it's kind of like finding that middle ground. Um, but yeah, no, 100%. I do it all the time.
How often do you get a chance to come back to the Santa Clara area, the Bay Area, essentially where Tomas was born out of? Like, do you get a chance to experience that often?
I go back so often. I'm always up home because there's an element of like safety that comes with just being at my childhood bedroom with my Fifth Harmony posters on the wall. Like, I need that every once in a while.
What is when you think about that bedroom? Let's take Fifth Harmony aside because I feel like Fifth Harmony will be the answer regardless. What song reminds you of that room?
Oh my god, I Like It by Enrique Iglesias.
Oh, babe, I like
Yes.
it.
I
Why?
remember my cousins and I would film like music videos on my webcam to that song. We would play it on the computer and then we would just sing, and there were glimpses of little queer Tomas in those videos, and I don't know where they are. I don't know what happened to them, but I wish I
Oh
could
no.
watch them back and see them now, because yeah, like I'm sure there was a lot in those videos.
So even let's take that off to the corner now. What would you say is not even necessarily in that room, not even necessarily in the Bay Area, but what is your gay anthem? As somebody who
Ooh.
experiences and listens and consumes so much music, what is the one song that you always seek to really feel like, man, I'm a gay person and I'm excited to be a gay person?
Oh my god, that's a really cool question. Born This Way, Lady Gaga, I think is a pretty obvious answer. Just because I think every time at her shows, there's like a spirit takes over me, you know, where you feel so proud and like nothing else matters, and it's like you're here, you're gay, you're queer, you're around other people like you. Then I would say that song for sure. And also Antes Muerta que Sencilla by Los Horóscopos de Durango, because it's just like very girly pop and also very Durango, which is where my family's from. So I think that song kind of encapsulates like all of my identities in one song.
I love that you included a Spanish language one because I feel like that's what mine is. Mine is Ni una sola palabra from Paulina
Yes.
Rubio.
Great,
As soon as
great.
that comes, I'm just like, I'm living
So good.
my best life. What is just sort of to kind of bring us to a conclusion here? When you think of a song, like sometimes within the first couple of seconds, we did mention like you're drawn to beat, but what are some of the ingredients of a song that you know is going to be a hit? Like just before it even becomes a hit, when you hear it, you think this has what it takes.
A good hook and a bridge. I love a good bridge on a song. I think a bridge can make a song feel complete. So I would say that, and a hook. Like the beginning of your song doesn't pull me in right away, I'm most likely gonna skip it because my attention span is so short. But I do love a good song with an incredible bridge. And I will say, like, obviously, like you have to have a sing along chorus. I think choruses are meant to be sung along, and I enjoy when I can. You know.
Okay. So what are these choruses that you're listening? Like what songs or what artists are on your radar right this second?
So I mentioned Hot and Freddie, which is this duo. They used to be songwriters writing big hits for other artists, including like Britney Spears and Katy Perry. And now they make what I think I coined the term carnival pop. They like have the story about being runaway circus performers to become a band. So I would say them. Remy Bond is another one. I think she has a really distinct perspective on music that like taps into nostalgia in a way that I don't think other people have really done in the same way. And I'm excited to see her music evolve. I'm trying to think. On the Mexican and Spanish side, I liked Kenya Os's new album, Ka de Karma. I feel like she's definitely become like the face of Latin pop, especially for the gays. Um, Let me think. I want to give you like some good names of people you should tap into.
Yeah, tell me.
Well, Slater, I think Slater's been around for a really long time, but I feel like she's finally getting her flowers. And I this new album, Worst Girl in America, really saw her like tapping into her own skin without having to perform and make music that just really resonated. So I would say Slater through her latest album. And then this girl, I'm really into girl groups, as I've said a gazillion times on this call. Say Now is this new girl group from the UK, pop girl group, that I think is incredible. They are signed to Atlantic and they just put out a new single called Millions. They have this like beautiful dynamic that's incredible, and I love them. Flow would be the other one, which is an R&B UK girl group that just dropped a song called Leak It, and I'm obsessed. I think that's the song of the year for me so far. Leak It by Flow.
So I do want to end with this one question because I
Hit.
feel like every time I ask folks this, like folks in terms of my friend group, I either get stares or like, I don't agree with that. Um, I feel like there are three perfect pop songs from the past, I would say maybe 10, 15 years. I'm going to list them and I'm going to see what your reaction is, especially as a pop connoisseur that you are. So I'd say it's one, Into You by Ariana Grande,
Okay.
two, Runaway with Me, Carly Rae Jepsen,
Mm.
and three, Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. Now, I'm not saying they're perfect songs. I'm saying they are quintessential pop, capital P-O-P, pop songs. What is your
Ooh.
reaction to
I
any or all of that?
completely agree with Into You. And Run Away with Me, honestly, could that's like a I think that's like a wait, how far back are we going? Because I would say Dancing on My Own Robin, 2010.
Okay, I'm glad you. This is my alternate. I've always said dancing on my own is like 3B because it's very much up there too. So I think yeah, right there already
Well, I
shows that.
see you. I see you. I'm not mad at this list. I do think Into You is the best pop song of the last 10, 15 years. 100%. I think that song's perfectly made in every sense of the word. Like it's formulaically a perfect pop song. Um, Shake It Off, I think, hasn't stood the test of time, in my opinion. I think like the vibe shift in it, like we've seen a reduction on like rap verses on pop songs and like the hey 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 like the speaking part.
Oh,
So
good
I would
point.
maybe deduct that one, even though Taylor Swift, we love you, Queen. But I don't know if I would say that that's my choice. But
So we
the
could
other two,
replace her with dancing on my own, which I'm happy to
period.
do.
Okay, period. I like that.
Okay. See,
I
ta-da!
love
Ending on
it.
a perfect pop note. Well, Tomas, so that way, folks, especially since now you're embarking on this wonderful independent career, and folks obviously would love to have them follow you. What's the best and easiest way for folks to keep up with what you have going on?
Yeah, thank you. My Instagram is at Tomas_Mier and my TikTok is just at Tomás Mier. Easy peasy.
Well, thank you for ordering Inferno. What was it called?
L'inferno. From
L'inferno.
It's giving Italian, all'antico. Literally, this is staring at me the whole time during the
I
interview.
know.
So I'm ready to dive in.
I know. You dive in. Everybody who's listening, dive into your own meals. But very grateful to you for joining me. And yeah, all the best of luck.
Thank you, King. I appreciate you.